Hi, guys. It is so good to connect with the Morgantown Men's Group. I know some of you from my time at St. Paul La Crosse Retreat Center while I was on the retreat team there. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Sandy Monnier. I am a spiritual director. I live in Irwin, Pennsylvania, and I have a master's in spiritual direction and a master's certification in leading individuals through the Ignatian spiritual exercises. In September, my dear friend, Father Doug Derula, has graciously agreed to host us for a day of spiritual direction at his parish, St. Cyril and Methodius in Fairchance. So before we get together there, at least I meet some of you there, I thought I would go through a very simple PowerPoint presentation where we talk about what spiritual direction is, what you can expect from spiritual direction, some basic question and answers, and a little bit about the Ignatian spiritual exercises. So what is spiritual direction? I like to think of it as recognizing that God is present and active in the world, and he is present and active in our lives. So let's seek him out and get to know him and follow him to a much deeper level. It really is about our relationship with God. And spiritual direction really is a relationship between God and the directee. The director also is there to support and guide the directee towards God, with primary focus on that relationship between God and the directee. It's a very confidential relationship. Your identity is kept confidential by the director. If you choose to tell somebody that you're going to a specific director, it's your choice. But the relationship really is about you and God. And that's one of the things that is primary when it comes to spiritual direction. I put a link here for the Guidelines for Spiritual Directors International in the PowerPoint, and hopefully you can get it. I don't know if you can with the video, but if you just Google Spiritual Directors International Code of Ethics, you should be able to find it. So what do you expect when you go to a spiritual director? I love this graphic about spiritual direction because it explains it so well. You get strength for the journey. You know, we are on this journey towards God, towards eternity for our whole life. And sometimes we really need some strength. And we go to the director to find that, to help us when, maybe we're struggling in prayer, or maybe to learn some new ways to pray. And also to get affirmation that, hey, our relationship is really good with God. Sometimes we need to recognize that God is present there with us. And we need to strive for that. We need to be encouraged. And, we also need some honesty from the director to really show us where we are, what we're doing, where our weak points are, and what our strengths are. And it gives us solutions on how to deal with the enemy. Because guess what? God knows us very well, and so does the enemy. So we might as well get to know ourselves, where we fall to the enemy every single day. If we can catch just 10% of those times, we've done a good job, okay? So we also need to be renewed. Sometimes life can get stale and we can feel stuck. And in spiritual direction, we're renewed. And it's a safe place. It's a holy place where we encounter God. It's where we can rest, where we can be totally ourselves and recognize that God is beside us, gazing upon us in love. And that director shows us that, hey, God's love is always there. And sometimes we just need a little bit of guidance to recognize that God's there with us all the time. So some common questions that are asked. Who needs spiritual direction? Okay, everyone, especially those who are ministering to others. We always need some help listening to God. And that's what we get in spiritual direction. And where do we find a spiritual director? You can go to a retreat center, go to a monastery, go to your pastor, go to your friends who are, having a wonderful relationship with their director. Go to Spiritual Directors International. They have a long list of directors. It doesn't matter what faith tradition you are. It doesn't matter what Christian denomination you are. Spiritual direction is an across the board for all of God's children. But most of all, last but not least, what holds everyone up is you go to God and you ask God to give you a good spiritual director. I know when I first started in spiritual direction, I was just clueless. I didn't know what to do, and I was confounded by some things that were happening in my prayer. And I went into adoration and I knelt down before the Lord and I said, okay, God, I will go to the first person you send me to. Walked out of the church, didn't see a soul. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I got home, and this was so long ago. This will date me, okay? It was on AIM, ALO, instant messaging, that the assistant from my parish popped in and said, hey, how you doing? And I said, hey, can I talk to you? And within minutes, I was on the phone with him, and I told him what was going on, and he said, I have just the guy for you. This is the guru for spiritual directors. And so he recommended that I go to my director, Father Tom Acklin at St. Vincent. And I've been with him ever since. And he's been a great gift, wonderful person in my life, and has been there in the challenging times and in the joyous times, and has been my mentor through training in spiritual direction, through ministry all these years, and has been a spiritual father for me. He's a great gift. So what's the difference, you might ask, between spiritual direction and therapy? Because people often get these mixed up. Therapy has an end goal. They want you to be nursed back to health so that you are a functioning, healthy member of society. Spiritual directors are looking to companion you on the journey. We're always on this journey. So that is a big difference. Spiritual directors and therapists can work together in conjunction to help you with a lot of the interior work that's going on in your life. So whenever you find yourself in a relationship with a therapist and a director, make sure you're honest with each so they can work together for your better health. And also, how often do you go? And how long does it last? Well, guess what? You go about once a month, and it lasts about an hour. And if you need to go to a spiritual director, maybe every other week, that might happen because you might have something going on in your life where you're making a major decision, a move, a change in jobs, marriage, vocation, okay? Talk to the spiritual director. You can always get in touch with them and have more sessions. Also, another time when you might meet your director more is if you're doing the spiritual exercises, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. But let's also talk about payment. Some spiritual directors take payments, some do not. Some are blessed that the church that they're affiliated with, the diocese, the parish, or the monastery, or the retreat center, pays them for their time. And you can go to spiritual direction and it doesn't cost anything. A large group of spiritual directors do this on their own as their livelihood, so it is only just to pay them. Whatever you do, whoever you go to, if you find a director that you'd like to see and you can't afford it, make sure you talk with them. All the directors that I know do their payments on a sliding scale. We would rather see you come to spiritual direction than skip it altogether because you can't afford it. So spiritual directors are willing to talk about it. Talk to your director about that. Some directors want you to make a free will donation to a charity or whatnot. And each one is different. So talk to the director. So also, how are spiritual directors held accountable? Each spiritual director is encouraged to be in supervision, whether it's individual supervision or group supervision. Now, when I first heard about supervision, I was thinking about, workplace or school. But it really is getting together with another person and looking at where the director has been touched or triggered, challenged by the directee. All of us have weak spots. All of us can be triggered. And has a directee triggered that spiritual director? And, it's about their better health. The healthier the spiritual director is, the healthier your relationship with that director will be. And I can think of a wonderful spiritual director that I got to know when I was doing pastoral care at Magee Women's Hospital. And maybe some of you know her, Rabbi Doris Dayan. What a wonderful spiritual director she is. And, she was in the Tree of Life Synagogue. Her congregation was there, and she was in the parking lot at that shooting several years ago. And she would tell her directees, hey, I'm still dealing with this. So this challenge sits in the room with us, but we're going to put that aside and we're going to talk about you. So she was very open and honest because that was a very public event in her life. And she is a fabulous director. And it is about honesty. Coming to spiritual direction is about the director and the directee and being open and honest about our blessings and our challenges too. And also, how are spiritual directors changed? Well, this is something that is not regulated, just yet. I suspect it's going to happen within the next 10 years that spiritual directors will be regulated, but they're not. And you can find a spiritual director that has no training, advertises themselves as a director. They can have maybe intensive month-long training, or like me, have a master's degree in spiritual direction. So ask the question, talk to them, and remember that whenever you go to a professional, especially a spiritual director, you want them specifically trained in the area that you're going to help them with. That's why I say you need to have a special spiritual director specifically trained in the Ignatian exercises to take you through that. And also in grief work, I know I have done a lot of grief work, time as a hospice chaplain, and a lot of my master's work was in grief. I also know some spiritual directors who focus on addiction or healing ministry. There's all sorts of specialties. So talk to your director and see what they specialize in. And lastly, let's see if we can talk about the Ignatian exercises. So what I love about St. Ignatius of Loyola, take, Lord, and receive my memory, my understanding, my entire will, all that I have and possess. You have given all to me. To you I return it. Dispose of it entirely according to your will. Give me your love and your grace. That is enough for me. Beautiful. So the Ignatian spiritual exercises created by St. Ignatius of Loyola, founder of the Jesuit community. They are specifically tailored to focus on your personal relationship with God. It's about scripture readings and reflections, and you follow the liturgical cycle. Ideally, you don't have to, um, but I like to do the exercises in the 9-month method, which is the 19th annotated, where you go from about September to May and focus on God's love, creation, sin, the ministry of Jesus, his passion, and the resurrection. You try to hit the nativity readings at Christmas, the passion readings, during Lent, and then, of course, the resurrection at Easter. There's the 20th annotated exercises, and they're 30 days. If you are in a position where you can jump away from your life for 30 days, go to a retreat center and do the exercises, that's wonderful. St. Ignatius found, though, that most people can't do that. They need to step away just weekly, meet with the director, and do the spiritual exercises in everyday life. I have done the exercises with groups. I have done them individually, and each has many blessings. And they really do kind of rock your world and change your life as you draw closer to Jesus through the exercises. So if you're interested in doing those, give me a call. Andy and Dennis certainly know how to get in touch with me, and we can talk and see if you're ready to do that. So I hope this little video was informative for you. If you have any questions, get in touch, and I look forward to meeting many of you, at least some of you, in September. And if you want to connect another way over Zoom, please do, drop me an email. As you see, I've included my email at the bottom of this page. Take care, God bless, and see you in September.